Welcome to the MadTrio podcast. This week we have the California Pariah, Jonathan Charney, James, the Fat Man Stevens,
hello,
and the man, the myth, the legend, Rob, the old guy.
From the world-famous Rob Charney Show.
So we'll be turning the clocks back soon. Gaining an extra hour in 2021 is like gaining a bonus track on a Yoko Ono album. So everybody enjoy the waning year of 2021.
Mm-hmm. So the pro to that is you get a few more Z's. You got a couple of more hours. It gets darker earlier though, so you got a downside.
Yeah, I still think it's just a waste of time to keep doing it.
I'm hoping so. They need to ban it. I mean, I thought we voted in the California to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Oh, you got your Tempatics on again on your phone?
Apparently I do. You enjoying that?
Almost like Morse code. Keep going.
That's just in. Stock market's down.
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't know.
Going up and down the whole time, and why are we surprised?
So this is from psypost.org, psypost.org. And this is literally the headline. I am not kidding, exaggerating or lying. Gun ownership is not associated with male sexual dysfunction, according to new research.
Oh, all right.
And this is from October 27th, 2021. Men experiencing sexual dysfunction are no more likely to be gun owners than men who are not experiencing such issues, according to a new research published in the American Journal of Men's Health. The study cast doubts on the claims derived from psychoanalytic theory that guns are phallic symbols that serve unconscious representation of male virility.
This is a good example of a PhD student needing to have a thesis to write about. And he says, hey, I'm going to write about this. Let's say dicks and guns really do mix. Good grief.
Our gun research has focused on testing taken reading this is hilarious. Focused on testing the taken for granted claim of gun culture, said lead researcher Terrence D. Hill, an associate Scientology professor on the University of Texas. Are gun owners especially fearful? Actually, no. I've never met a fearful gun owner that I know of. But let's be honest, most of them I know are really good shots.
Can we do this study on men with big trucks?
No, hey,
I'm sure. Put it out there. Somebody will give you some money for a grant.
Let's narrow it to the people who put truck nuts. I want to know the thing.
So if you have a nut cap on it, you mean the longer that nut cap gets on the trucks, you've seen the real long pointy ones that seem to be in vogue right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So the longer it gets, maybe that means they're substituting for something.
There's something, that thing.
Because there are all these little short truck drivers that do that.
Are gun owners especially fearful? Do guns help people sleep better at night? That one's probably true. Do guns make people happier? Well, to be honest, the more guns I have and I'm able to shoot them, the happier I am. So, yes. Do guns...
I'll move out of California.
Truth. Do guns enhance satisfaction in life? See, answer C. Do guns compensate for sexual dysfunction in men? Matter of fact, over the years, I've known some women who are really into guns. So, it could. I saw this and thought it was hilarious.
Good grief.
Oh, okay. So analyzed data from 780 men who participated in the 2021 Crime, Health, and Politics Survey, in addition to measures of socio-demographic characteristics and other factors. So 780 men.
Pretty small number, huh?
Who is the one that measured their sponsors?
Did you guys get that? Small number? Never mind. Anyway.
That joke just doesn't measure up.
I know.
That just kind of blew right there.
Oh, well. Anyway.
All over the dress.
Let's stop bringing up Bill Clinton.
Why? He's hilarious.
Poor Bill.
Depends on
He's an old man now.
Depends on what? I answer. What was it? Depends on the definition of what is. Every time I hear somebody say that, the southern twang gets deeper and deeper. Because he didn't really have that much of an accent.
So with Disneyland reopening, there have been an excessive number of Anaheim police calls to Disneyland Resort.
I'm assuming it's the
Did you
fireworks.
hear about that?
I did not.
No, these are for bomb threats, assault and battery, and grand theft. So somebody just stole the Disneyland hat from the resort, and that counts as grand theft, I'm sure. So
yeah, isn't everything at Disneyland?
Yeah.
Everything's grand.
What's considered grand theft? Is it a certain dollar amount or size?
Yeah.
You'd have to look
a certain dollar amount.
Yeah, California Penal Code probably
I don't know
states it
what the dollar
somewhere.
amount
I think
is
it's
now,
over.
but I know it was like 5,000 or somewhere around there.
Grand theft.
I didn't even think it was that high. It may be now. I thought it was over 1,000, but it doesn't matter. I mean,
well, with California law, I'm thinking it probably went up.
Who knows?
Let's see.
I don't know. It doesn't seem to matter.
Okay, grand theft under California penal. See the previous thing we talked about.
Yeah.
Grand theft under California Penal Code Section 487A is defined as illegal or unlawful taking of another person's property, which is valued in excess of $950. This crime can be charged as either a felony and or a misdemeanor.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That was that.
So they stole a churro. So that's churro theft in Disney.
The churro. I don't know.
Grand theft, delicious Mexican thing.
So what are they accounting all this extra police activity at Disneyland?
They're saying that it's because of that they're just getting an influx of people because of the shutdown, the park being closed down for 412 days.
The pent-up frustration of not being able to go to Disneyland.
People coming in and acting out.
Yeah, okay. So they're
they're there to have a good time type bullshit.
Okay, I have a legitimate question. It is probably the biggest Disney enthusiast on the show, undoubtedly, because of what I collect. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, okay, I love Disney. Disney's fun, but it's not fun to get arrested in Disneyland. I mean, but just what I want to do. Goofy going, you're coming with me. I don't get it.
Well, they're
Why?
saying that they have an average of 78,000 people visiting the parks on a daily basis.
Does it mention anything with alcohol, or are all these people are substances, or are all these people sober?
It didn't say that, but yeah.
Are they back to serving alcohol in Disneyland?
I know.
I thought they shut it down for a bit.
Oh, they might have. I thought there was still like 2 spots that you could buy it there.
Maybe. I'm just curious.
Because as a kid, I remember you couldn't buy alcohol that I can remember. But I remember when I went on my honeymoon in Florida, there were in the animal kingdom, there were tiki huts where you could buy alcohol. And I remember seeing people incredibly hammered, which, by the way, being hammered at Disneyland sounds like a miserable experience to me.
It could. You never know.
So the secret button you didn't want a French taxi driver to press. A new device in 1987 allowed threatened taxi drivers to shock someone sitting in the back seat. This is from the CBC archives.
I love it.
This product
Good on you, French.
The product was raising some eyebrows in France and possibly some buttocks off the back of the seats of Parisian taxicabs. 32 years ago, a new product called the Blazing Seat was being marketed as a way to making taxi drivers' jobs safer. The Israeli-invented product could be implanted under the upholstery in the back seat of a taxi so it could be triggered by a moment's notice. It would deliver a shock of 52,000 volts. Whew.
That's minor. Because it's the amperage. That's actually not that high.
Plus, it's traveling through a seat.
But that's enough to get that's enough to get attention. I mean, it's not taser level, but that's still pretty good. So volts to a misdemeanor client at the touch of a foot pedal, said CBC Sheila McVicker in a report that aired on the National in November 4th, 1987. I thought that was hilarious.
Why did they discontinue that?
It's probably cruelty, I guess. I don't know.
Some passengers can be quite cruel. That kind of sounds like fun.
So, I was wrong. The electrical output of a taser is 50,000 volts. I thought it was more. So most likely what it is because if you, that makes sense. Because if you hit the electrode in the body, it causes more pain versus just this thing that's going through the seat.
Skin and everything else. Yeah.
By the way, 5 points to anybody who can actually tell me what taser actually stands for.
I don't remember and I don't want to think about it.
Well, if the 2 or 3 people who I know are fans of the podcast, 5 points if you get it.
5 points towards what?
Just 5 points. You can use the points to buy it from the imaginary MadTrio podcast swag store.
So do you guys know about the strawberry Pop-Tart case?
Yeah, I mean, there's not enough strawberry in the strawberry Pop-Tart?
Yes.
It's like Subway's bread not being bread.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So the attorney, Spencer Sheehan, has filed more than 400 lawsuits that are similar to the strawberry Pop-Tart case. He's going after Keebler, Betty Crocker, and a few other ones. Mostly people that put vanilla and other things in there, saying that they're not actually putting vanilla, and that there's not enough fudge in the fudge cookies because they don't contain milk fat, which is in fudge, so it's not fudge.
I bet it says like fudge flavor somewhere or strawberry flavor, or it doesn't actually have to be a certain percentage.
Now, I'm just curious, like, what is this guy's real goal here?
Money.
He says that he's after truth in advertising.
Money.
Yeah, it's definitely money.
Isn't he an attorney?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So, I wonder, what's my motivation? Money. What do you think?
Yeah. And then the another one was Tostitos. Their hint of lime chips.
Not enough lime.
Said there's not enough real lime juice.
Oh Lord. Well, there's always somebody, isn't there? I mean, that's yeah. Okay. Well.
And this is a good one too. So the snack pack puddings.
Yeah.
That are made with real milk.
Not enough snack in it.
No, he said it's because they use fat-free skim milk.
Oh, Lord. Not enough fat content.
What judge is going to put up with this crap?
Yeah. So it's back into somebody can sue about something, doesn't matter what it is, about anything. This doesn't matter. It just at certain points though they have to be responsible for what they're suing for, and a judge needs to step up and say, okay, fine, we'll take this case, but if you lose, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars.
I'm waiting for Bill Cosby to chime in about pudding pops. I know what was it, Florida? Like the state where Peter Thiel backed Hulk Hogan's Gawker lawsuit, allegedly, if I remember correctly, that state requires a certain amount of money to be banked into account. That way, if you lose, the money automatically goes to who wins. So I'm wondering if it's something like nuisance, obviously stupid lawsuits need to have a penalty attached like that.
Yeah, there's been talk about that for years, but I don't know where that actually stands now. I don't know if some states have adopted that and some haven't. So I have no idea.
I think, it didn't say where he's based at, but I think the guy just needs to.
What do you bet it's California?
What you said, he's got to have some type of something happening against him if he loses these cases. This is just ridiculous to me on some of this crap. As you read through and see what he's going after these guys for. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, did you guys know there were female gladiators?
Xena Princess Warrior.
Rome?
So this is, in Rome. This is something I didn't actually know, have never heard of up until recently. So Gladiatrix, Gladatrix. The Gladiatrix pearl is a female equivalent of the gladiator of ancient Rome, like the male counterparts, the gladiatrices. Well, that's actually what they said. Fought each other, other wild animals to entertain the audience of various games and festivals. Very little is known about them. They seem to be used much as the same equivalent of male, but were heavily outnumbered by them. It was pretty interesting. This is from Wikipedia, the bastion of all knowledge, but this is the first time I've ever run across that in anything.
Generally, a lot of gladiators were slaves or criminals.
Oh, well, there were the professional gladiators, too.
There were the professional gladiators, but those are fairly rare. Most of them were just slaves that were sold into the gladiator arena, or they were either criminals who were given a chance to vindicate themselves. And sometimes if they vindicated themselves well, they were just reused instead of released. So the women slaves were generally sold as sex workers at some point, or house maids and things like that. So
that's why I was
not surprised they're pretty rare.
So they seem to have been introduced during the very late Republic and the very early Empire, and were officially banned as unseemly from 2000 AD onward. Their existence is known only through a few accounts written by members of the Rome's elite, and very small number of inscriptions. I thought that was probably, because at this point I love history, so I've watched a ton of Rome stuff, and that's the first little tidbit I've heard of. It's like, wow, it was super interesting.
A couple of things I've been reading recently on Roman history in particular is that, and Greek history, is there's a lot that they're rewriting now and going back and looking at, because they're coming across other writings other than Plato that have written about all this stuff. And they're coming up with more things, such as the female gladiators and the fact that there were actually more professional gladiators than was first thought, that not everybody was just sacrificed because they could be. I mean, there obviously was the slave situation and all that, but at the same time, there are also more things that are coming out about it all the time, which I find fascinating. They're still coming across stuff.
I remember reading, the one thing that paid my interest when talking about like the gladiators was the fact that it wasn't a death sentence, because even if they were a slave, it was so expensive, the amount of money it cost to train them, that it was only selected times or limited times that they'd end up going for fatalities, just because nobody could keep it up. Mm-hmm. It would be ridiculous.
Yeah. So there was that. So if you were in the ocean and you closed your eyes and you ran into a mountain, what do you think would happen?
Like, how did I run into a mountain in the middle of the ocean?
All right. That's very good. I like that. So one of our U.S. Navy's Seawolf class nuclear submarines recently just recently apparently ran into a seamound that was known.
So how's the poor guy doing?
So get this. This is, the Navy was pretty tight-lipped about when it happened. It happened on October 2nd. Well, that's when it was reported. Probably 5 days earlier it happened. And apparently it kind of smacked into the seamound as it was cruising around whatever speed it was cruising around at. And it was, they kind of going, we knew about this seamound. Well, why did you run into it?
There's
our eyes closed. The lights are off.
There's radar and other things that you can tell that you're coming up on something in those ships.
Well, a lot of these submarines run silent. In other words, they're not actively pinging. They're doing everything they can passively without any, because this particular submarine was somewhere near China, of course, and apparently it struck a seamound, and now they're coming out with more studies and more information about it. And I guess it was a known seamound. It wasn't like, all of a sudden it appeared on the map out of nowhere.
See, the back of my mind, it was some redneck in the boat going, I'm sorry, boss, I see no window. And it's sorry for all my southern friends, but, I'm thinking Clem was driving and he couldn't look out the window.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm sure that commander's career is over with, but because he'll take the fall. He'll take the fall for it. But, it's like, maybe we shouldn't do that in a billion-dollar submarine.
Do you think, would he get a dishonorable discharge?
Oh, no. He just wouldn't go any further. He'd never make captain.
So pretty much he'd be sidelined
He'd
forever.
be done. Yeah, his career is done, unfortunately.
That's interesting. I've been reading a couple of weeks ago to a month ago, I read somebody say, they say making captain is incredibly easy in the military. You just have to be long enough. They said they hand it out like Cracker Jack prizes if you're in for a long period of time.
Maybe in the Army, not in the Navy.
This is the first time I heard that. So.
Yeah, the Navy's like a full-bird colonel.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. You got to understand there's a difference. Captain in the Army, that's a different thing.
I'm assuming it's captain. So is that the captain the rank, or is the captain a position?
So in the Navy, most submarine captains are commanders.
Okay.
Some can be actual captains as well, but most of the time they're commanders. And then the next rank up is captain, and that's who you typically call the commander of a ship is the captain, but their rank may not be captain.
Okay. So that thing saying "Captain, my captain" could be true. You're saluting the person and the rank.
Could be. Yeah, you never know. So there is that. But anyway, so much for our top of the line super secret submarines being able to navigate the oceans without running into things. Jeez.
Clem just didn't get a chance to look out the window.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the other problem. Maybe it rolled down the window. And
that's hilarious.
So I'm sorry for those guys, but come on, that's a major cluster.
There had to be the major pucker power, but afterwards they're all laughing about it. Hey, boss!
I guarantee you, none of those people are laughing about it because the Navy takes that very, very seriously.
No, I guarantee you. I guarantee you. I guarantee, like, after the fact, when they're back in their base, after somebody's been yelled at, they're making fun of the fact.
Enough years down the road.
Yeah, they might be doing it there, knowing some of the military people I have.
The other problem that they're having is getting these things repaired now because there's a major manpower shortage in all the shipyards as well. And apparently that's the other thing that the military is not talking about. It's the backup or the backlog of repairs needing to be done to all their naval ships, which are mostly done by civilians. And there's a huge need for all these trained people, and they're not there now. A lot of them retired or left or don't want to work or whatever.
I wonder if this is going to be something you're going to see, like the military start pumping out, like that learn a skill thing, but be a welder, be this, like actual like tradesmen, like actually focus on that.
That would be a good reason to go into the military, which a lot of guys do. They go in to learn a trade.
That's what my father-in-law learned.
The weld or electricians or whatever it may be. So no, it's definitely mechanics. So
the two countries you don't want to be right now that have COVID is Australia and China. China locks 30,000 visitors inside Shanghai Disneyland after one guest got COVID-19.
Yeah, but it was a guest that had left the day before and self-reported, and that's what they apparently do in China. So good on those people. They're real freaked out about it, as they should be. And then they locked 30,000 people inside Disney and didn't let them out until they were all tested. And then here's the part I couldn't understand. And then before they could even be let out in the wild, so to speak, they had to wait 24 hours and be tested again. So I don't know.
I love the little bit of this article because it says with fireworks exploding above them as they waited nasal swabs, the Disney visitors became the latest Chinese residents to experience life under zero tolerance.
They were saying the longest queue they've ever seen was at that
I believe it.
Disney China. Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. Because I was thinking of all the places to be locked in. It's not the worst place.
Well,
as long as you didn't hear, it's a small world constantly.
I hope they would be able to get to their hotel rooms. Also, I hope their food available. I mean, they've got to be able to handle these 30,000 people locked inside.
Did you imagine a line with 30,000 people hearing dun 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 dun? You're about to have a Chinese riot.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So apparently Russia's on lockdown again, but only for residents, so you can travel in and out of the country.
Oh.
So wait, just residents? So does that mean like
they can't leave?
To go to work and they have curfews.
They're allowed to go to work, but they have curfews?
They're not allowed to go to work.
They can't even work?
Nope.
Oh.
How is their economy still holding?
I know in Russia was telling me that they're on lockdown, but you can travel in and out of the country.
Ah, all right. That makes a lot of sense.
I guess
they obviously don't care about anybody leaving. Go here. The borders are open now. You're free to leave.
Wow. I guess Putin just really. Wow.
Putin.
I'm sorry. I always get those two confused. That's nuts. I mean, I'm amazed, like the level of lockdown that's happened. Like United States had a fairly easy lockdown, far as it was pretty much voluntary, unless you didn't have a, unless in case of something. I never heard of any cases where it was by force, like not like the old quarantine laws. But you hear like Australia's doing. You heard like Vietnam and Korea were doing. China's doing. Russia's doing. We had a fairly gentle lockdown, generally.
Because we believe in freedom, right? In America,
we had freedom even if we couldn't go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's not like in China. I heard stories, and granted, your mileage may vary if this is true, but I heard stories of people's doors being welded shut and bolted shut in China. Like
go ahead, weld my door shut. It's wood.
Right?
Go ahead, go for it.
Like in
burn the house down.
Yeah.
In China, I heard stories of people basically being locked in their homes by the force of a firearm. Somebody I know in Italy. If I remember correctly, they said they were only allowed to leave their homes on certain days to go grocery shopping, and the rest of the time they had to be in their home. Like, it was super crazy. That's one reason you saw videos in Italy of these giant buildings of people singing because they're stuck inside with each other.
Yeah.
Well, anything's possible. I don't know.
Just not talk about COVID, but I'm curious about the circumstances surrounding COVID. I think is interesting. Like the Australian thing is the thing that I'm most fascinated by. And one of the reasons, the biggest thing I heard, the reason why it's happening is America is one of the few countries that actually have rights defined like we do. Like enough so that if they did something like that in the United States, it would require very special circumstances because otherwise it would be a violation of basic constitutional rights. Like the only way they say they could do it is if they declared martial law in the United States. Like besides that, they could not legally do any of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a number of things going on. And I think we even talked about this in a number of shows. I mean, last year's shows about what would have to happen. Because many law enforcement, remember we talked about the difference between the sheriff's department and police departments and all that stuff. There's that whole issue too, and it depends on what the sheriffs are going to be willing to do or not. Anyway, long story short, who knows? Anything's possible. This crazy, strange age we live in of COVIDitis that I don't know.
I don't know. I find it fascinating. Like I'm kind of over the topic of COVID because let's be honest, there's nothing new. Because nothing really.
Well, I just read today that the last nation in the world that didn't have a COVID case finally had one COVID case, and that was Tonga.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
Yep. Tonga finally got their very first COVID-19
Tonga
case.
what?
The island nation of Tonga, Tongo.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about non-important news. Facebook has changed their name to Meta.
Nah.
And the best news that happened about all of this, one, they're getting rid of the Oculus name, which I actually disagree because I like the name. They're going to call it the Meta Oculus, the Meta Quest. But the Oculus Quest is actually tied to your Facebook account. So if you get it banned, you get locked out of your Oculus product.
Well, but the Facebook name's not going away.
No, yeah, the overall company.
But the Oculus name.
The Oculus name's getting away. So basically it's going to be like how Alphabet is Google's parent company.
So now the term meta has been around for decades and decades. And I don't understand how a company like Facebook can all of a sudden say, hey, we're going to change your name to a word that's been around forever. And then they're going to go around trying to sue everybody on copyright infringement for using it.
Yeah. And does it mean, I'm kind of curious about it. It's like copywriting the name Lana. You can't do it.
No, I don't. So I'm so confused on them and maybe it's my age showing, but I'm kind of confused on them taking that particular name. Doesn't make any sense to me. But whatever, Facebook.
Isn't there a company?
I'm thinking it's like, Emerald Lagasse with BAM. He was saying that he's the only one that could say BAM because he's coined the phrase.
Yeah, well, but as that turned out not to be the case.
Yeah, I assume this is going to be turned out not to be the case as well.
Yeah.
But Android, the word Android is owned by Lucas. Vis-a-vis is now owned by Disney. The word Android.
I don't know. You know what? I'm not being a copyright attorney. Maybe we need to find somebody who can actually give us legal definition of what all this really means, because it's a lot of speculation on my part. It just doesn't make any sense, though, to me.
I wonder if it's original word, like say Android when it came up, or droid, or some sort of word that was never in the lexicon. I bet you could copyright that. But you're right, Meta's been around forever. I mean, maybe the definition has changed.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always wondered about taking common names and becoming the company name and then copyrighting it. I know it's getting difficult in this day and age to come up with new and exciting and unique, although they seem to do it all the time with very strange spellings of things.
Well, that's the only way they do it. That, like WWE, if you take a look at how they spell people's names, that's the only way they can copyright it, because they got like funky names.
Right.
Like Tyson spelled with a Z,
Yeah, no, and I understand that. So that's part of the reason they do that. I mean, that we've got a lot of everyday common items that we use the terms for. Probably the biggest one is like Kleenex. It's a facial tissue. Kleenex is a brand name, and people just, they use that as the everyday word. So there are some things that can become part of the lexicon, but I don't know. I just don't know the legal entity on that. And then it doesn't make sense to me. It's a stupid name.
So, okay. So talk about how long it's been around.
Yeah.
Meta, from Greek something or other, meaning after or beyond, is a prefix more comprehensive or transcending.
Yeah.
So it's been around at least since ancient Greece.
At least. So maybe Plato came up with it. He needs to copyright that. All right. So enough about stupid Facebook on it. I got a list. You want to hear a list? I need to come up with list music.
Anchors away, my boy.
That's not list music. That's stupid music.
That's you just pissed off a bunch of seamen.
No,
that's the name of the song.
Yeah, well. So
made some Marines happy though.
Yeah, famous individuals who were exhumed from their graves. This should be a topic for when Ryan is on the show. See if he can guess any of them. All right, here we go. I'll start with number 1. Salvador Dali.
Oh, that
okay.
doesn't surprise me.
All right, so okay. Can you guess why though? This is one that these are the things that always amaze me as to why was his body exhumed. In June 20. What's that?
Donate to science?
No.
A child would
nice try
guess.
though.
They wanted to see if somebody was his biological kid.
So in John's ding 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 on June 2017, a judge in Madrid ordered the exhumation of Dali's body in order to obtain samples for a paternity case. A woman had claimed that the artist had an affair with her mother in the mid-1950s. Tests carried out proved conclusively that Dali and the claimant were not related. Oh man, she lost her case.
Is Charlie Chaplin
the
on the
case
list?
Was thrown out. Oh yeah, he's on there. Apparently after nearly 30 years of burial.
Exhumation?
What's that?
Did she have to pay for the exhumation is what I'm curious about now.
Well, see, now you're going to have to dig into the story deeper than I did.
Well,
the case was thrown out, however, and apparently after 30 years of burial, his iconic mustache was still perfectly intact.
You definitely want to stay tuned for more of Rob's famous listicles. Stay tuned for after the break. Today's show is brought to you by Audacity. The game where dignity is overrated. Go to ODDASSITY.com. That's ODDASSITY.com. Pick up a card game from this website or selected stores. That's Audacity, the unforgettable party game for mischievous people. And make sure you use the code MadTrio, all caps, one word, for 10% off your final order. That's MadTrio, all caps, one word.
Nah, thank you for that. So we've got a couple of presidents on the list too, but we'll start with this one anyway. Abraham Lincoln.
You couldn't tell a lie?
Lincoln was buried in Oak Ridge Cemetery in Springfield, Illinois. A decade later, thieves attempted to steal the president's body for ransom. They failed, but the coffin was subsequently hidden between the walls of the tomb to deter would-be grave robbers. Later it was decided to build a larger, more secure monument. During the construction, Lincoln's body was secretly exhumed and rebodied in the nearby ground. Finally, in 1901, after 13 months of construction, the president's remains were reinterred in the now familiar Lincoln family mausoleum.
By the way, that's a weird crime. I'm going to hold a dead body in hopes that somebody's going to give me money for it.
It's not the first time either. I mean,
that's such a weird...
I know. Let's steal a body and see if we can get money from the family for it.
And the worst thing is...
It's already dead.
Yeah,
but that's
smell.
Not the case. Yeah. Well, by that time, it's long gone. So, how about Christopher Columbus?
I'm surprised he hasn't been dug up or back again.
Oh, yeah. He was supposedly originally known to be buried in the Dominican Republic. However, nobody's really certain if it was actually Cuba or Dominican Republic or where it was. But he finally apparently somebody got pieces of him. And so now they're claiming that parts of Columbus is possibly in Cuba and the Dominican Republic and as well as Spain. So who knows? His pieces are spread all over the place.
Jeez.
All right.
They chopped him up and moved him to different places.
I guess so. Everybody wanted a piece of him. That's the
All right.
I want a piece of you. Here you go. All right. Here's history lessons. Lee Harvey Oswald. Does everybody remember who that is?
The man who killed Kennedy.
All right. So Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated President John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963. Oswald was himself shot and killed 2 days later by Jack Ruby. Oswald was buried at Rose Hill Cemetery in Fort Worth, Texas. But was the man in the coffin really Oswald? Well, people are claiming it wasn't. And so they had to, guess what? Dig him up to prove that, yes, it was really him. And dental records did confirm that it was really Oswald in his own grave.
There's a movie about his family we did during Real Flicks Reviews. That was an amazing movie. I'm surprised.
Amazing in that.
It was really well done.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually surprised anybody gave a shit about that guy.
Well, I don't know. There's always people. What about Charlie Chaplin? Yeah. The cherished as a worldwide icon through his screen persona, The Tramp, and it was regarded as the most important figure in cinema history. He died on December 25th, 1977, which I kind of went, wow, I didn't realize he loved
Hitler loved
1889.
him. Hitler loved him until they saw The Great Dictator.
And was laid to rest in the village cemetery in Courchevel, Switzerland. But on March 1st, 1978, the comedian's body was dug up from his grave by 2 thieves who reburied it in a field in nearby village, Nerville. The pair then attempted to extort money from Chaplin's widow, Ona. The grave robbers were eventually caught and the body returned to the same grave.
I'm still shocked that somehow it's like, okay, let's steal a corpse and let's
get money from the family. They keep trying. I mean, talking about beating a dead horse.
Oof.
Okay. How about Jesse James? Everybody remembers Jesse James, right? He met his end by being shot in the back by Bob Ford. April 3, 1882. James was promptly buried in Kearney, Missouri. However, some claim the infamous gunslinger survived the attack and rode off into the sunset to live to a ripe old age. So to prove that theory wrong, they had to dig up the body that they thought was him. And surprisingly enough, because there are still descendants of Jesse James around, it was a match. So he was shot dead and was buried. So now they had to stick him back in the ground again.
Yeah, by the coward Robert Ford.
By what?
By the coward Robert Ford.
Yeah, that's right. By the coward. Well, you know. I mean,
that was actually a good movie if you've seen that one.
I may have.
Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. That's the actual title of the movie.
Okay. I'll have to look that one. I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, that's a good one.
No, good. Anyway, I got a couple of more here. Some of them are more interesting than others. And then, I'll put some names of interesting. Eva Peron. She apparently had to be moved around some. From Italy to Spain, back and forth a little bit. Oliver Cromwell. You got to go back in your history to really think about who Oliver Cromwell was. But he was one of the signatories of the King Charles I death warrant in 1649. I had to remind myself who he was. So, but long story. He was, this one you'll like. Cromwell's body remained in Westminster until Charles II came to power. Seeking revenge for his father's execution, Charles ordered Cromwell's body to be exhumed in 1661. After being hanged from the gallows by an angry mob, the corpse was beheaded and the head displayed on a pole outside Westminster Hall until 1685. That was a long time to be outside there. The remains, meanwhile, were dumped into a pit. It's believed Cromwell's head was interned in 1960 in the grounds of the Sydney Sussex College in Cambridge, a secret location. It can't be too secret if you know where it's at. But but they, talking about getting mad even after the fact.
That's a long fucking
grudge. Yeah, I guess so. Mob justice.
Yeah, huh? Jeez. So there was that. Marie Curie. Pierre Curie, who
was this to test how radioactive her corpse was?
Yeah. No.
I wouldn't want to touch her body, considering how much radiation that woman absorbed. Considering all her articles, like her notebooks and all that, are incredibly radioactive still.
Oh yeah, it will be for a while. So anyway, it doesn't say. You know what? That one I needed to spend some more time reading because it doesn't really say. Oh, I think she died before her husband, and he was actually when he passed away, he was buried somewhere else. So they moved her to be next to him. Isn't that sweet?
It is.
Huh.
She buried in a lead box?
Good question, huh? I don't know. Doesn't say.
You hope she is. I'm assuming her body would be radioactive for a long time.
She'd be easy to find with a Geiger counter. Oh. Yasser Arafat. You guys remember that guy?
I do.
Yeah.
Palestine Liberation Organization leader. He supposedly died November 11th, 2004, from what doctors described as a massive stroke. There's a lot of people that think the stroke was a massive amount of lead.
That'll do it.
So anyway, his widow pressed for a murder investigation, believing her husband had put poison. Yasser Arafat's body was exhumed by Swiss and French forensic scientists. Well, I could have told them right off the bat that wasn't going to work, putting the Swiss and the French together. On November 22nd, 2012, results published by the Swiss showed that Arafat may have been poisoned by plutonium. The French, however, thought it's unlikely. and the debate continues on to today.
That's hilarious.
Why doesn't that surprise me? All right, we have another president, Zachary Taylor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Zachary Taylor served as the 12th president of the United States from 1849 until his death on July 9th, 1850. Many believe the president had been murdered, dispatched by poison somehow administered in his food or drink to quash the assassination rumors, which persisted into the 20th century. Zachary Taylor's body was exhumed in 1991. Oh, that's pretty recent, actually. No evidence of poisoning was found. Instead, it was declared he had succumbed either to cholera or gastritis.
All right.
Wow. So at least they put that to rest. I mean, all of us are one of our most famous presidents of all time. Zachary Taylor served less than a year.
Yeah.
All right, I'll end my list.
So Clyde Barker supported himself early in his career by occasionally working as a male prostitute for rich and secretive clients.
Ugh.
Their experience inspired him to write Hellbound Heart, which was later adapted into the film Hellraiser. These are kind of like, lightning round of interesting things.
Hey, did you know that Chinese, talking about quick and interesting things, China had the Chang'e 5 spacecraft collected about 3 pounds, 4 pounds of moon rocks and brought it back.
Did not.
They're finding out, this was, so James is doing the Morse code to what I'm saying.
So
he needs to tap a little faster, though.
It's the slowest Morse code in history. He's still
That's the speed I would do it at when I was trying to learn it.
He's still unwelcome the MadTrio podcast.
Just trying to get those letters. Yeah, but anyway, they're finding out for some reason, and now everybody's scratching their heads, that the rocks from the Chinese are about let me be sure I get this right, because it was a ridiculous number. That the age of the samples between their rocks and the rocks that are collected by the Apollo landings is about 2.3 billion years difference in age.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's a big...
How does that make sense?
That's... So we're not the only ones sitting here going, let me think about this. 2.3 billion years difference. Well, I don't know. Maybe in the time of the starting of the everything, that's no amount of time at all. But still, you would make so they're all trying to scratch their heads now. They all being the deep thinkers that look at this stuff, trying to figure out how that's possible.
Well, maybe the Chinese got their moon rocks like when you went to Mexico getting bottled water.
Yeah, that's true. How do we know those were moon rocks, not something they just collected out in their backyard?
Exactly.
Right?
The moon landing's fake. The Chinese definitely don't have the capability of landing in the moon. Come on.
And bringing back 4 pounds of rocks, right?
Yeah.
It just really makes you wonder about their carbon dating skills.
I mean, they obviously stole it from an American company. They probably just didn't get the manual.
I don't know.
So isn't carbon dating done by the decay of atoms? So, I mean, that's like a set in stone. You can't change. It's got to be absolute fact, right?
I have heard, and I don't know how much is true because I've actually never looked it up, but I've heard there's been multiple samples of the same thing that'll get like a massive difference in age. But I don't know if that's the way it is now or if it was originally, but I've heard it. The story I read years ago said it's not uncommon, but I don't know if that's true now.
I don't know. It also... Excuse me, folks. I don't mean to be doing that in the mic. I don't have a mute button here, though. So it does make you wonder, though, like James says about the carbon dating. I mean, it's supposed to be, scientific fact. And
talk about hilarious. I read an article about the Playboy Mansion, and this guy was talking about, Hugh Hefner had massive orgies in the mansion. And all the commenters were like, shocking.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's state the obvious.
Exactly.
All right.
Water's wet, sky is green.
Grass is blue.
It can be.
Yeah. There you go.
Or it can't.
Nah, it depends. Depends if your friend's a smartass and decides to spray and paint your lawn. I don't know.
Or you're colorblind.
That would suck.
So...
Hey, your glasses.
Did you hear that more police are starting to stop pulling people over for minor traffic offenses, Rob?
No, I hadn't heard that.
So, Philadelphia is the newest state to implement this, where they're gonna stop pulling people over for low-level traffic offenses.
Okay.
Which can range from expired tags to lights being out, just things like that. And their reasoning is that it's supposed to make it more race friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it is. I'm trying to look up the.
It's the old probable cause situation. And what was the reason for pulling this gentleman over? Because his taillight was out.
So does this mean? Yeah, so what's the point of paying your tags if you're not gonna get pulled over?
So you don't get fined by the DMV. It's the driving equality bill is what they have it as. Minnesota's doing it. Virginia. There's another state.
So if California does this, I would say you don't have to pay your registration fee then if the cops are going to pull you over.
So
Minneapolis.
My understanding, Minneapolis. Okay. But no, my understanding of what John just said is that the states are going to the insurance companies saying that if the car has expired tags, you can't insure the car because it's not roadworthy. So then if you get in an accident, it's all on you.
Yeah, that would go along with mechanics and like other places telling the insurance company the mileage of the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a lot of what's going on with that.
Oh, San Diego is having discussions about doing a mile tax. Road usage tax.
What?
So basically, if you commute like I do, like 3 hours, if you drive 3 hours a day, and say if it's 50 miles, you're going to get taxed for, like, say a dollar per mile a day. So how much you drive, you get taxed for that much for road usage. Since the roads allegedly got repaired by the gasoline tax, but because cars get such great gas mileage, like my hybrid gets 40 to 45 miles per gallon, they're actually losing revenue. So what they're doing is they're trying to raise revenue. But if y'all actually ever pay attention where this fund goes, in the lovely state of California, it goes to everywhere but the roads.
So California's been talking about trying to implement this for decades. And they keep bringing it up. I think Newsom actually mentioned it not too long ago about, again, looking at the possibility of doing that. What a cluster that'll be. I just...
Yeah. But my thing about this whole thing is, how many serial killers were caught for low-level
infractions?
Yeah.
Well, I think, when you start giving a pass and you're coming out and you're saying we're giving a pass. In other words, we're not going to pull you over because you have a taillight out or you have a license plate light out or your tag looks expired or whatever. What they forget is many times that contact with law enforcement can do other things other than just whatever their idea is going towards trying to stop these things. The reason behind it sometimes is a safety reason. So, not every law enforcement officer that pulls somebody over because their taillight's out or a headlight's out or their tags, they pull them over for safety reasons. They say, hey, there's been a lot of people that have gotten just warnings or statements and said, just make sure you get it fixed. I was just checking, make sure everything's okay. And those are the good kind of contacts that we need. And now if we're going to eliminate that as a possibility.
I am curious though, like how many have been, this guy has a taillight out. Okay, let's, Chicago, we did an article about this a couple episodes ago about how, the cops in this one neighborhood would pull over a black dude for like a tailgate being out, then search the car.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wonder, so I'm just wondering statistically, look, what is the more common thing?
We know that human beings, no matter what, will try to scam a system, no matter what that system is. Doesn't matter if you're a crook, if you're a cop, if you're a politician, if you're a doctor, right? Every walk of life has tried to scam every type of thing, whatever there is. So yeah, I guarantee you there have been law enforcement officers that have used that as an excuse, when they actually didn't have anything else. And they'll say, okay, hey, his taillight was out. Oh, gee, it looks like it's working now. Sorry. Many years ago, I was pulled over, turned out by a friend. He didn't know it was my car. Pulled me over because he thought the treads on my tires were too thin. Why the car was moving. I'm going, that's next to impossible to, He came up, and then I happen to know the guy. I said, hey, Mike, what are you doing? I'm here with the family. I'm going, I didn't know it was you, Rob. Sorry about that. I was making an excuse. Yeah, so, it happens, right? They do it, You know
what they say, the difference between a cop and a criminal is the badge.
Unfortunately, I think the majority of that's not true. But there is that. There will be that. Yeah, I guarantee it.
And I'm not anti-cop. I've just known a lot of scummy people and a couple of people who were scummy people who became cops. So there's, or if you read into LA's crash unit, there's scumbags on all sides of the badge.
There always has been. And we discussed this before. But so to James's point, I think my problem is when you come out with an actual, okay, now we're not going to stop you because of these things. Right. And then they're no longer in the tools of what can be done, like James said, is now, how many murderers or major crooks or whatever, drug dealers, whatever, have been caught because of stops like that.
I wonder if this is basically a manpower issue, because a lot of these places that James mentioned have had a massive or allegedly massive reduction in the force. So I wonder if it's because it's not because of allegedly they're trying to look more friendly to minorities, but it's a fact that, hey, we have less cops and this will make a great excuse to be more friendly. It's a marketing gimmick in disguise of a manpower issue.
My opinion, this is let's defund the police thing.
Yeah, that's like
right?
I said.
It's the same thing. We're just trying to handicap law enforcement out there. All right, the word handicap is misinterpreted in this. Is it taking a tool away from law enforcement? Yes.
James is on the phone. I think it's okay.
Hey, I'm the one with the placard.
Hey, James.
I have one too.
Yeah, I'm the only one who doesn't.
Hey, see, you're the odd man out.
I am curious.
And you're the one who needs it the most.
There is a question I'm having is when is the uptick of this? Because at some point, like in the story we did like a month ago about, I think it was Chicago, where the rise in violence is becoming noticeable to everyday citizens. When is this going to be on the rebound when people realize, okay, you can't have people steal up to $950 a day and call it a misdemeanor vis-a-vis California. You can't have this. You can't have this. Like, or that.
You know where it's coming from? Because you brought up a good one about if it's just under $1,000, $995. It's not even hardly a misdemeanor anymore. You can't retain the people. I'll tell you where the pushback's really coming from, and we're already seeing it. It's happening in Sacramento. The retailers. They're already saying, look, if we can't stop all this shrinkage, it's going on, 40, 50 times a day, then there's no reason for us to be here anymore. And there's a number of stores in major
Bay Area,
Bay Area in particular. They had a number of, I think it was Walgreens stores. Walgreens shut down like 5 Walgreens simply because they were losing more than they were making.
Now I worked in there's a store up in our area that has a Spark logo, if you know what I'm talking about. And when I first got there, the shrink problem was bad. But when I left, the shrinkage and theft had gone up like 5-fold.
Can you imagine what it's like now? Why do you think everything's being put behind locked devices?
I remember asking my manager about that. And if you work at one of these stores, like for example, ink cartridges, when it was out and about and you could get it, you were only allowed to put 3 on a shelf at one time. So if you had a slot, you only were allowed 3. You wonder why there's never any out. Is because they were only allowed to put a couple in at a time. There's all these things they do, like these spider wraps, and it was amazing. Like at the end of the night, the amount of theft and things you would see. Or like my favorite one, just because I thought it was fairly clever, is somebody opening a package, taking a pair of headphones, wrapping up their other one, putting in without really opening the sticker. So when somebody went to go, it was a used pair of headphones.
Jeez.
And like gross pair of headphones. So I'm in the state of California, like if y'all don't know, it's up to $950 and it's non-stackable, which means means you could steal $950 a day from one store, $950 from another store, $950 from other store. And the law enforcement can't say, okay, that's $3,000. That's a felony.
No. Yeah.
And so like
each count is separate.
And in Sacramento, you have people doing that with Apple stores, and it's all sorts of things, just clearing people out. You have mobs of people, and it sounds like hyperbole, but it's happened, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know. So I guess my point about this whole thing was that I think what we're going to see is that you're going to see so much pushback from like retailers alone. I think Walgreens is just one example that I know of, and I'm sure there's many others that are just going to close down stores, and the convenience of having these stores in your local neighborhood is going to go away.
So do you think, so another thought real quick before we end the show, could it be that they just lock down the store so much, like everything's behind lock and key? Because our local store that I worked at, anything worth a certain amount is under lock and key now. Even phone cases are behind lock and key. So at what point will it become so onerous to the consumer that people are going to start complaining? Because that's the only way. Like I remember when I worked at the store, I was asking management, the guy at the head of the store, it's like, hey, can we get a case for insert product here? It's because we're losing a ton of shit.
Yeah. Something's got to happen. Something's got to check out on this situation. You may be right. I think it may get to a point for box stores that are just going to have to put everything behind glass. And if you want something, you're going to have to ask for it, which is going to kill the browsing. And as far as I'm concerned, the whole reason to go to a store, an actual physical store, is to be able to look at different products and handle them and look at them, actually see what they're, because, there are a number of things that you buy online that it may not fit. It's not the same color as in the picture, isn't the same size, isn't right, whatever it may be, and it's just nicer to actually go and handle it. That's going to go away, and pretty soon everything will just have to be, the online purchase.
So when I worked at this store with a smile, there were some interesting thefts. Like somebody took a crowbar from one section of the store, pried off some of those. They're reinforced. They're hardened steel locks around laptops, and popped off, like literally just by force, popped them off, which is actually kind of amazing. Stole 3 fully functional laptops because the display units are literally marked "Do Not Inventory" displayed, and then if they're still in decent shape at a certain period of time, they reduce the price by 50% because they're heavily used. Somebody stole, they had an iPhone 5 from one of the pay-as-you-go carriers, and it literally was not a functioning, no, it was from AT&T Verizon. It was a non-functioning iPhone. Like it didn't have a cell phone. It didn't have the GSM stuff, but you could play with it as a demo unit. Somebody popped that off. Somebody walked out with television, like not like a small 32, like a 50-inch TV, walked out the door. And in this store, that if you were one of the asset protection people, and if you chased them out the property, if you stepped out the door after them, even as an accident, you were terminated on the spot. One of the AP guys did it, and he said had management take him to the back, said, okay, give me your shit, you're gone.
Huh.
Like amazing amount of theft. Like when I was there, you actually used to be able to give people games in like a jewel case. It was a lock spider case. And you couldn't do that. Instead of doing that, you'd walk them too. And then towards the end, they would say, hey, you want a game? It's like, you got to buy it here. And people would get mad. It's like, okay, just walk it, lock the game, and tough luck. I mean, it's get to the point when I was there that you couldn't take anything to the front that was more than a cell phone case.
Yeah. Well, from a friend of mine was talking about one of the things that these people would, very first thing they would steal, calculator. Do you know why? Yeah. So they could see if they got up to before, so once they got close to $1,000, they made sure they stopped, and then they just would go out the store with them in a basket.
Yeah, I believe it.
So, yeah, crazy.
Do you want to keep up to date on the maddest of the mad at the MadTrio podcast? Check out our social media feeds on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or go to themadtrio.com.
And ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for listening to this edition of the MadTrio podcast. Do me a favor, go over to our sponsored ODDASSITY, that's Audacity.com. Make sure you use the word MadTrio, all one word, all caps, for 10% off your final order.
Final.
So ladies and gentlemen, for the California Pride, the Fat Man, and the Old Guy, as always, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.